Welcome to another episode of the Carry Trainer Higher Line podcast. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Higher Line podcast. We've got a pretty exciting episode today. Immigrant to the United States that became a U.S. Army sniper, did his time with the Army, and now is an interagency SWAT officer and is pretty well known on the social media spaces because of his physical capabilities. Yeah? You like being fit.
Yeah, I do.
Who are you?
I'm
what name do people know you by? Because you don't share your real full name.
No, I mean people commonly know me as Slava.
Slava.
Yep.
Slava. And on Instagram, you used to be called the Russian
Assassin,
which we'll talk about why you had the name the Russian Assassin. And then you were
the Russian Warrior.
The Russian Warrior. And then Ukraine got invaded and you're like, this isn't good for business.
Exactly. So then I changed it to the Core Actual.
To the Core Actual.
Yes.
What's that mean?
Well, Derek and I, the camera guy, we decided to make our own media company. Mm-hmm. And in the beginning of pandemic, we kind of put our heads together because at the time Derek was making a lot of videos on his own for the team. Mm-hmm. And
by the team, you mean this interagency SWAT team that you guys are on together?
Exactly. So he did just short, funny clips. He would do a training. He would bring his camera, do some videos. He would edit them together, and I was like, man, that's some pretty cool stuff. Mm-hmm. I mean, I love watching YouTube, so I love watching all the creators, and I love the process because I always loved photography. I took a photography class in college,
oh, cool.
And I always liked doing photography. So we were just talking to training one day, and I was like, hey, why don't we start doing videos? We kind of started working together, talking more about it, and I'm like, what are we going to call the company? You start Googling different names, different ideas, and I was like, you don't want it to sound cheesy or anything like
Russian Assassin.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that is. But when we get to the name of the Russian Assassin, you'll understand why. But so either way, we didn't want to be like tier 1 media or whatever, because
I have multiple friends that have companies with tier 1. So just so you know, this guy.
Hey, I got a SEAL Team 6 guy who's got a company named Tier 1 something too. But like I said, I didn't want it to be too common or anything too cheesy. I don't want to represent something that I'm not.
Sure.
So we're kind of like putting our heads together, trying to come up with something. And, we came up with To the Core. Actually, we came up with To the Core Actual initially as the media company. But then we're like, that's not really a media company name. So let's just change it to the Core Media because, we had to open a partnership, do the whole LLC thing, and it had to be on paper. So let's just call it To the Core Media. And it's just pretty much just like following like the core values, kind of like in the military. You have your Army core values. And
what are they? Do you remember?
Oh, it's shortened for leadership. That's the way you remember it, like LDR. Loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage.
I like it.
Still good programmed into my head. I mean, it's been I've been
20 years.
Over 20 years. I went to boot camp in July of 2000.
Okay.
So it's still programmed into my head. So yeah, it's like kind of like following the core values. So we wanted to put the core in there. So we do like every project we take, we're gonna give it 100%. We're gonna do it the right way. Mm-hmm. Because we watch a lot of YouTube and stuff, and that's what the biggest thing we're talking about is you watch some huge content creators on YouTube, and eventually they start, some channels just looks like they don't put in enough work into their stuff. And I'm like, I understand they're big and they probably don't have to work as hard. I was like, damn, when we do our stuff, let's just focus on quality. Like our main thing is going to be, we're going to put out quality content. I know we're still learning. I know if you watch some of our first videos, they're probably not the best, but it's part of the learning process.
Sure. So we'll circle back to that. Let's talk about like how you got here.
So
it's an interesting story. So I think people will find it interesting. So you were born in Russia.
Yes, so I was born in St. Petersburg, Russia, and if you're not familiar with the geography of Russia, it's located up in the northwest corner, up by the border with Finland. It's located on the Gulf of Finland. So I was born there, lived there for the first 3 years of my life, and eventually we moved to the suburb of St. Petersburg, which is another interesting part of my life because we moved to an island in the Gulf.
Oh, wow.
It's not really St. Petersburg. It's a whole different city. It's called Kronstadt, and it's considered like a fort city. So it was built by Peter the Great. So what he did was he took this island and turned it into a military base. So the entire island is surrounded by old forts.
Wow.
So you could still pull it up.
How big is it?
I mean, it's big. It's not like a small island.
Like it's not like you just like walk across it.
No, you definitely can't walk across. It's a pretty big island, but it was at the time considered a closed city. What it meant by that is you can't just drive across the bridge freely, because especially during the Soviet time, because the entire island was like one large military base.
And that's what it was when you lived there?
Yeah. So pretty much I grew up surrounded by like a Navy base, Army base, and I was in a suburb of, like, the island had its city and then it had the suburbs. I grew up in the suburb. It was like an up and coming area. They were building all kinds of apartments, and so pretty much you didn't buy housing at the time, they gave you housing. So
anybody.
Yeah, anybody. So you get on the list and you wait, because during the Soviet time, people lived in the communal housing. So pretty much you live in an apartment with a bunch of other families and you share everything. I don't remember that part of my life. I was too little. I just remember moving into this new apartment that we got. And my apartment was overlooking a fort. The fort sat in the middle of the Gulf. It was pretty cool. It was just like one round building sitting in the water. And pretty much I was on the coast and you could just see the ships going by.
That's cool.
Yeah. So pretty much my playground was playing in the forts, the Gulf, going fishing. Like, it was just all outdoor life.
Pretty cold there in the winter time, I'm assuming?
Surprisingly, no, because because you're located on the water, and it's usually when you're on the water, it's a milder climate. I would say it's probably the same as here.
Okay.
So it's maybe a little bit farther north, maybe like southern Canada, northern Minnesota type of climate.
Okay.
And I lived there until 1993, because my dad left in 92 to come to America. He just knew some guys who were going to America to find a job, and he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna go with them."
Why leave?
Communism broke up in the early 90s, so the whole country just turned upside down, because my parents were not getting paid, like nobody was getting paid, and all the food was rationed out. There was no food at the stores. Interesting thing is, people were instead of getting money at work, they were getting like food rations, or they wouldn't get anything at all. And it's not like your food rations were like steaks or chicken or whatever. It was just like grain, potato, noodles, whatever.
So just for the people listening that are too young to remember this, I remember when all this happened. I'm a few years older than you. I remember it being all over the news every day for what we in the States were allowed to see or had access to, because it wasn't social media and all that shit. But I think people really take for granted that you can go to like even Dollar General, which is not really a grocery store, and get milk and eggs and bacon and, you know, ice cream and butter and all that shit. Like, you couldn't just go do that.
No, and even before it all fell apart, like during the socialist time, it's not like we were rich. Like it's not like my parents could go to the grocery store and buy whatever the hell they wanted. Like, they only made so much money, and like I said, we were, I would say, not even like middle class growing up. And a lot of the stuff you couldn't get that you get here, like simple stuff as bananas. I remember as a kid growing up, maybe once a year, a grocery store will bring in a shipment of bananas. and you'd have a mile-long line out the door.
To get to have a banana or
Exactly. And it's not like my parents could buy 20 pounds of bananas. They'll buy a bunch of bananas, and
you ate them and enjoyed them?
It would be the slowest eating banana ever because I would savor it. Yep, exactly. I mean, it's crazy. Like, you think about that, bananas, 25 cents a pound here, not a big deal. Right. But over there, it's like, holy shit, I get to eat a banana.
That's cool.
And the kids, they get to have, like, a whole bunch of them. You think, oh, yeah, they're rich. They can afford bananas,
Do you like bananas now?
Hell yeah.
So now it's like every day, like I just have bananas.
I can't live without it. Now, like, I run out of bananas, I'm like, what the hell, I got to go get some more.
Now, because you got access to them.
Yeah, I have access to it. Plus, it's a perfect food, you're hungry, but you got to get a workout and eat a banana before a workout. Yeah.
We'll have to talk about that. So Dad says, screw this. You got brothers and sisters?
I got a younger sister.
So he leaves you and your sister and mom on this island, and he comes to the States to try to find a work and a place to live to bring you here.
Yeah, so his initial plan was, back then, a lot of the people were going, like the dads of the families, which if they could, they would go to Europe, they'd go to Germany, Poland, whatever. They would go work, make some money, come back. So he got his whole plan was to come to America for a few months, find a job, make some money, come back, and just that was it.
How long was he gone?
I think he was gone for about 8 months.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so he came straight to New York, and New York was a mess at the time. I think that was right before Giuliani took over, where the whole streets were all a mess. And yeah, he said that he remembers just like piles of garbage everywhere, and he just wandered the streets. How like in the movies you see now, like you have people at a designated spot, like the immigrants would sit there and wait for that truck to roll up and load up the people. They do
work on a construction site or something. Yeah.
So he did that, never got picked up by anybody. He had zero English. I mean, at least I was in Russia learning English in a class, but it's still not enough. But he came with not a single word of English.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy to think about, like going to another country, can't speak the language, your family's 5,000 miles or whatever away, no cell phones, can't text, no video chats, no cell phone watches and all that shit. So it'd probably be days that you couldn't talk to your mom at a time, I'm assuming.
Oh yeah, and we didn't have a phone.
Oh wow. So they had to be in the same place, like where there was a phone, to even call each other.
Exactly. So we had, in our apartment, I think it's like a 12 or 11 story apartment building, only one friend had a phone. So, like I said, a lot of people take this stuff for granted, but we didn't have microwaves, we didn't have CD players, we didn't have VHS players, we didn't have any stuff that you already had here for many years. So a simple thing is just a regular phone. We didn't have one. So he finally finds a job. So yeah, finally he was wandering the streets, came across this lady who was recruiting people to come to Iowa to this meat packing plant. And she's like, we have this kosher meat packing plant. It's owned by these Jewish Orthodox, and they just bought this plant out, and they just want to do, kosher meats. That's what they did. They processed kosher meats out of it. Like, you want to come? So he jumped in the minivan and drove him all the way to nowhere in Iowa.
From New York, just sight unseen.
Yep.
They said, we'll find a place for you to live.
Yeah, they found him a place to live. He lived in this crappy place that he shared with several other dudes, and he lived there and worked his ass off at a meatpacking plant.
And then how long was he till he was able to find enough money to get a place to live and bring you and your sister and mom over?
Well, the funny thing is, finally, then when my mom and I came, he still lived at the same place, and he asked those his roommates to pretty much move out because it's like, hey, my family's coming. You guys are going to have to move out. But we had to leave my sister behind, which was a very tough decision for my family.
How old was she?
So I was 12. She was about 10 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Because I was 12 and my sister was 10 years old. But the reason why we had to leave her behind is because back in those days, Russia was not allowing parents to leave with all of their kids because their people were escaping the country.
So they literally said you got to leave one person here?
Well, yeah, because we came here as tourists pretty much. So pretty much all Russian government thought that we're just coming here to visit. So it's like, you're not going to leave a kid behind, so.
Holy shit.
So my parents had to come up with a plan to where, as remember I mentioned earlier that my dad was born in Uzbekistan. So I had family there. So my grandma and great-grandma at the time were still living there. So we had to fly my sister to the grandma's, leave her there. And then my mom and I flew here.
Wow. How long till you saw her again?
So it was about 2 years until I saw my sister again.
Damn.
Yeah.
I can see that that's bothering you physically just to talk about it.
Definitely. Like, I wish I could have changed places with her, honestly.
Why didn't you? I mean, why take you? Did your dad think you'd be more useful to help making some money or something?
Oh, my mom sat us down and she's like, this is what's going to have to happen. One of you's going to have to stay with grandma. And my sister chose that she wanted to stay.
No shit. Okay.
But knowing what she went through, and honestly, I didn't find out until recently, like what she had to deal with, it's like I wish I would have taken her spot.
Like a hard time at grandma's?
Definitely.
Abuse, that kind of stuff, or just
family issues, because a lot of times she stayed with other family.
Okay.
The not so best part of the family, I guess. And
So how did you guys end up getting her here? Eventually, did Russia lose the ability to keep tabs on all these kids, and Dad just went and snuck her out, or?
Eventually, we had a family friend fly her here. So the family friend picked her up and flew her to Chicago.
And then once you were here, it was see you later.
Yep.
So you are 12 years old. You speak no English. You're in Bump, Iowa.
Yep.
With a bunch of farm kids, which is like my kind of people. And they're like, hey, Vlad, who the hell are you?
Exactly. So pretty much I went from urban environment in Russia, and you land in Chicago, and all you see out the window is skyscrapers. And I mean, that's what I pictured talking to my dad. I was like, oh, America.
Yeah, he's been in New York.
Yeah, I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to wake up in this big city. It's going to be so awesome. But yeah, you land in Chicago. It's already evening. You get in the car. You drive for hours in the middle of Iowa. And so I go to sleep.
Are you cold? Do you want your sweatshirt?
Yeah, I'm freezing in here.
Where is your shirt?
I wake up, go outside, and I'm like, where the hell am I?
So you wake up and Dad had driven you from O'Hare or Midway to... Where in Iowa were you? How far over the river?
So I was in northeast Iowa.
Northeast, okay.
So it's right on the border with Wisconsin and Minnesota.
That's Dubuque. And
it would be north of Dubuque.
Okay.
Small town called Postville.
So right by Galena, Illinois.
No, north of there.
Well, it can't be too much farther north. Oh, that's the... I know that. I got it. Okay. So right there.
Yeah. So either way, it's a small town called Postville, Iowa.
Postville.
So at the time, I think the population was just over 2,000 people. And I mean, the town only had like 2 gas stations and that's it. Small grocery store. No Walmart, nothing like that. So you pretty much had to travel everywhere, and we didn't have a car. But my first memory is going outside, and I'm just walking around trying to get my bearings, trying to figure out where I'm at. And some random lady walking by, she's like, hi. And I was like, well, why is this lady saying hi to me? She doesn't know who the hell I am. You know, in Russia, if you don't know somebody, you're not just going to say hi to a random person. So I was completely thrown off by that.
Really?
Yeah. because, you know, Russian people, they're like, you know, like, I don't know you, why am I going to talk to you, you know? It's just the way it was.
So did you say hello back?
No, I just kept walking because I was like, who's this strange person talking and trying to talk?
So this is how you set the tone in Postville for the new kid.
Oh yeah, exactly.
How was it at school and stuff like that? What time of year did you move there?
So the interesting thing is I was flying out from Russia on September 1st, 1992.
Okay, so right when school started.
September 1st in Russia is like the huge deal because that's when everybody goes to school. No matter what, September 1st is the day you go to school. And it's kind of like a big deal. People celebrate it. So it's like a big ceremonial type of thing. So as I'm ready to leave, I'm watching all my friends going to school, but I'm leaving. And it was definitely an interesting experience in itself. But I finished 6th grade in Russia, and I go to school in Iowa. And we're sitting down talking to the principal, and he's like, well, you're gonna have to go to 6th grade all over again because you don't speak any English. We don't have ESL program. We don't have anybody who can translate. So pretty much you're gonna have to go to 6th grade. So for the first several months, it was just me sitting in class trying to figure out what the hell's going on because I don't speak the language.
So you didn't even understand, like, when you just, like, watch kids get up to go to the next class and follow them?
Yeah, I was pretty much, you know, talking, like, sign language, you know, trying to, whatever couple words I knew in English that I learned in...
Coca-Cola.
Yeah, exactly. And the funny thing is, another thing, I was like, this is not the English that I was learning over there because at the time you were learning, like, the proper English, like the British people learn. And over here, it's like a whole different language. I was like, what the?
Sure.
I was like, can I go to the toilet? I was like, what? No, bathroom, you mean? I was like, what the hell is bathroom, you know?
I don't need a bath right now. I need to take a piss. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. So it was pretty much when I went to school, it was like I keep telling people, it was like an alien landed in the cornfields.
Sure.
Everybody was just
sense.
staring at me like, who the hell is this?
And at that time, there was still, like, that's like... not long after movies like Red Dawn had come out and shit like that. Like, we hated the Russians then.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And yeah, I mean, eventually, once I learned the language, people always talk about, you know, Russians invading and...
Right. Did you get any of that from kids?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was... That's the thing, like...
Go home, Russian!
Yeah, oh, yeah. I mean... First impression, people are like curious, you know, like I said, you're like an alien landed there. Everybody wants to know, like, you know.
Kids probably wanted you to talk so they could hear your accent.
Yep.
Say this, say that.
Yeah, so eventually that wears off and then people start testing you, you know. Then people start with you and...
Like how?
You know, calling you Russian, whatever, try to pick fights with you.
Did you get in fights?
Eventually, yes, but I was more of a timid kid. You know, I never liked confrontation. I was just an average kid. I wasn't anything special. I was an average.
We're all special.
Yeah. Well.
Did you play sports?
So I did. In Russia, it was different. We didn't, like, the schools did not have athletic programs. If you wanted to do sports, that's something you did on your own outside of school. Mm-hmm. So the very first sport that I did was in gymnastics. It's huge in Russia, and my dad signed me up when I was a little kid, and he would take me to this training center and did gymnastics there during the Soviet days.
What kind of gymnastics did you do?
Like, just basic stuff, like learning how to do flips and all that.
Can you do a backflip or anything like that still?
Maybe off a diving board, but not off the flat ground.
No,
because eventually my dad's like, well, if you want to keep going, you have to keep signing yourself up. And my parents were always at work. And of course, if you leave it to the kid to do something, you're not going to do it on your own. I was like, that, I'm not going to go, you know, I don't want to go by myself to go do this. And the funny thing is, growing up at that time, like, you were taking public transportation on your own, like, at 5. Like, I remember being the little kid going on the bus by myself to the city.
Wow. 5 years old.
Yeah.
Kindergarten age.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Insane.
Was there much crime there?
Not during Soviet time.
No.
No, I don't remember much of anything that stands out. Like,
So there's a trade-off to communism and socialism. You get no bananas, but you're not getting raped on a train.
exactly. Well, plus, I think that the people themselves would take care of business if anything would ever happen. You know, like right now, you go on any social media platform, somebody's getting attacked, all you see is a bunch of people with cell phones.
Sure.
Nobody's helping.
Sure.
Just like what was it? I think maybe you posted the one with the pit bulls attacking the old guy.
Dude, that was horrible.
I was like, what the hell? Like, get out there. You could at least kick the shit out of that dog, do something.
Right.
Like, and that same thing during Soviet.
That guy died.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, yeah, it was pretty. I hate watching shit like that.
So, normal stuff, high school, girls, all that.
Well, like I said, my dating life was non-existent, even in high school.
You didn't say that, actually. You're just saying it now. You didn't date?
No, I really didn't, because, like I said, I was just an average kid when I came to America.
Average kids like chicks, too.
I didn't say I didn't like chicks, but when you're a new kid, especially in small school, when you know the entire school.
You could have worked it. You could have been the Russian Hammer.
I know. I wish I would have kept the accent and, you know, my confidence.
Slava, why do they call you the Hammer?
But no, you know how small schools are. It's all long-term relationships. Everybody knows each other. Like if you want to date, you have to go outside the school. You have to go to the next town over or something like that. And you go there, you're like the enemy, you know.
You still have friends there in that little town?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I had some friends that moved out, moved back in, but nobody in that town, but they're around that area.
People you still talk to that you grew up with?
Oh, yeah. I still have one of my best friends. I still stay in touch with him. He was my friend when I first moved there.
Okay,
and
cool.
we were friends ever since.
I like it.
Yeah.
So at some point you decide you want out of this town and join the Army.
Yeah, so...
Did you go right out of high school?
Yeah, I joined while I was in high school. So since growing up, seeing the military stuff, you know, in Russia, and since the military service is mandatory in Russia, I always wanted to do something in the military. And so I wasn't a U.S. citizen. And at the time when like junior, senior year, the recruiters start coming to your school, unlike now where, you know, they can't have that. It's kind of too violent for the recruiter to show up to school. But back then we took the ASVAB test at the high school. And the recruiters would show up to school, we talked to them. And none of the recruiters they're like, you're not a citizen, we're not even gonna help you. So we had this school event to where Iowa National Guard came to the school and they did this like rappelling event. They hook you up, you rappel off this little scaffold in the gym, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. I was like, I don't know shit about National Guard. I was like, is this Army? It says Army on the uniform, but I was like, so you're like part-time military, right? They're like, yeah, something like that. You know, you train twice, was it a weekend every month or something like that? So
2 weeks a year.
Yep. So I talked to them, and the recruiter's like, well, let me see what I can do for you. So funny thing is, this recruiter, I just linked back up with him a few years ago through Facebook.
Oh, cool.
He hit me up, and he was like, you know what? I'm gonna see what I can do for you. And he put in the work. He had to go the extra step. He was the only guy I talked to who was willing to take the extra step and get me in. So he's like, they were trying to get me to do the language thing for the National Guard. And I was like, I don't want to do that. I want to go do
Like to be a linguist?
Yeah, like to do linguist stuff. I was like,
It makes sense. You speak a couple languages already.
Yeah, but I was like, no, I want to go do cool shit, you know? I want to go shoot guns and kick doors, whatever. And so I ended up doing the infantry route. So I joined when I was senior in high school. So they had the program to where you could join while you're still in high school. You would show up during the drill weekend, but you wouldn't participate with the rest of the unit. They would have you'd be in a separate room. You have a dedicated guy, you'd go over all the stuff and just show you like what to expect at boot camp and stuff, like just getting you ready. So I did that, and in July of 2000, I went to Fort Benning, Georgia for basic training and advanced infantry training. And that was probably one of the coolest experiences of my life, because this is just something I was looking forward to. I mean, of course it sucked. I'm not gonna say that I loved every day of it, but it was still an eye-opener, you know, because, you know, it was just something different, because when you never pushed yourself that hard, ever, you know, you realize what your body's capable of. Like something as like at the end when you graduate your infantry training, you do a 25-mile ruck march. And I mean, the next day you can't even walk, you know, that was brutal. But yeah, when you come out of boot camp, you feel like you're invincible and complete badass, which is complete bullshit, but when you're 19 years old, you know.
Sure.
But yeah, so it was still, so when I graduated boot camp, you go back, I'm still back in Iowa. All my friends left for college and they moved out. It was probably some of the miserable time of my life. So I just went and got a job, and I was working all kinds of factory jobs, because that's all there is in Iowa. I did anything from putting wiring harnesses together for tractors to working at meatpacking plant, working the assembly line, cutting meat, you know, and worked maintenance for a meatpacking plant. So it was a lot of like, if you watch dirty jobs, I pretty much did all those dirty jobs. Like with Mike Rowe, I was like, oh, I can relate. I've done all that.
Sure.
So I came back, I went to college, and I worked the job. So I'd go.
What did you study?
I just went to community college, just trying to get the gen eds out of the way. So it was just a general associate's degree, because I was like, I wasn't sure yet. Like, I'm kind of like a late bloomer. I never knew, like, what am I going to do with my life, you know, because I wasn't sure. I wanted to do the military thing, but I couldn't do military thing full time because, like I said, I wasn't a U.S. citizen. And like, sometimes I think about it. When I was in boot camp, one of my drill instructors who was the biggest dick, but also one of the coolest guys. And he pulls me in the office one day, and
Why was he a dick?
just because the way he just talked to you, you know.
Okay.
He was like a former gangbanger from LA, this Hispanic dude, but he was cool as though. Like looking back on it, I was like, he was probably one of the coolest drill instructors I had.
Yeah.
And Drill Sergeant Cardiel, I'll never forget that. And funny thing is, one of my best friends who I joined the National Guard with, he's a major now, and he ran into him like maybe 5 years ago. Sent me a picture with him. I was like, man, that's our drill sergeant.
That's cool.
The dude's cool as hell. But he pulled me into the office one day just randomly. He's like, hey man, this National Guard shit is bullshit. I was like, what if I give you a Ranger and airborne contract right now, and you could go straight to active duty, just do that? I was like, I don't know. I think I want to go to college, you know. I'm 19, I'm stupid, you know. I was like, I think I want to do that. I mean, I had nothing really holding me back, and I'm still thinking like, where would I be now if I, you know, did that instead? But I come back and I'm like miserable working all these jobs. I'm still living with my parents, and I'm going to college. I don't know what I want to do. Plus it's peacetime. It was pre 9/11, and I'm like, I'm really hating being in the National Guard. So I started looking into going active duty. So I started talking to recruiters, and I had to write this long letter to my commander explaining that, hey, you need to release me from National Guard. I don't like this because I want to do more cool shit. Like, this is boring. And so my commander releases me, and then we have like a training NCO contacts me. He's like, hey, you remember that bonus that we gave you for signing on? You're going to have to pay it back.
Why?
It's just, they're like, you didn't finish your obligation, your contract, so you're going to have to, I think it was $4,000 at the time.
A lot of money for a kid.
Yeah. I was like, I don't have $4,000. I was like, what the hell am I going to do now? I'm stuck here. So I was like, all right, whatever. I'll stay, just make the best of it. And of course, 9/11 happened, and it's all history from there. So I figured I'll make the best being in the National Guard, go as far as I can within within the National Guard. So I pretty much fast-tracked pretty rank-wise. And
Why is that?
I always gave it 100% everything. I'm super competitive. I always shine my boots, like, I was always pressed my uniforms. I always took pride in my appearance. Like, I was proud to wear the uniform. Anytime we did anything physical, super competitive. So, and I think that showed when I went to at the time it was called PLDC, primary leadership course for when you make E5, when you make sergeant. It's like a leadership course. My commander's like, well, you better make honor grad, whatever. So like, all right, I got it. So I went. I didn't get honor grad, but I did get like commandant's list, which was still pretty high. Either way, 9/11.
Was your CO pissed that you didn't get the honor grad position, or was he okay?
No, he was still happy, because he was he said it jokingly.
Okay.
So at the time, our unit was got orders to go to Sinai, Egypt. So there's a rotation. They're still doing this, and the Sinai Peninsula. It's like multinational forces thing where they got these outposts at the Sinai Peninsula. It's like the maintaining peace between Egypt and Israel. Mm-hmm. I was like, holy shit, that's pretty badass. We had this guy from New Zealand, colonel from the New Zealand Army, come and give us a whole brief, showed us everything. I was like, hey, this is pretty badass. I'm pretty excited. I didn't have any girlfriends at the time. I got nothing holding me back besides a shitty job. I was like, I want to go do this. This was back in 2003. So we had to mobilize through Fort Carson, Colorado. So pretty much we'd go to Colorado for like 3 months. No, it wasn't 3 months. It was a couple months. Just you get the unit spun up on all the tasks that they have to do and all the training. And it was my first time out west. I've never been anywhere. And I was like, holy shit, this place is awesome. Like, mm-hmm. Colorado Springs is beautiful. Like, mm-hmm. I've never been to the mountains. And then like halfway through this, before they leave, my battalion commander pulls me in the office. He's like, hey man, you're not a U.S. citizen. We can't bring you along. I was like, this is complete bullshit, because back then I had to go through like an immigration office, do like some paperwork that you could go without a passport. Okay. I gave him everything. I spent my own money doing this. He's like, nah, I'm not gonna risk it. I was like, you can either go home or you could stay at Fort Carson, like a rear detachment. It's like, I'll stay as rear detachment. So pretty much like when you stay at rear detachment, you still have to do a job. They're like, well, you can either work on base doing like base housing stuff, assisting them, or you can go work range control. Like, I'm going to range control. So pretty much I was just a glorified range maintenance guy. But what that gave me access to, though, 10th Special Forces Group, mm-hmm. is in Fort Carson. I was out there mowing, and I just watched those guys. I was like, man, that's what I want to do. I was like, you watch those guys with their hands in their pockets, I was like, the cool guys. So I go there, just chat them up and talk to them. And I was like, well, 10th Special Forces Group, they're out of Germany. And Russian is the language that they would need. And I went to their recruiting event, and I talked to the recruiting NCO. I was like, hey man, what would it take for me to come to 10th Special Forces Group? And he's like, well, you got all the requirements, but you're not a citizen because you need a security clearance. I was like, so that's holding me back again. But so then I was like, start looking at how do I go active duty again? Start looking that route again. So that fell through, and I just ended up working range control for like 8 months. And there's no way for me to stay at Fort Carson when my unit returned, because I wanted to stay in Colorado. I really loved it because all I did was go hike on the weekends, just go explore.
Beautiful there, yeah.
Yeah. So my parents at the time sold everything and came here. And I was like, I always wanted to come to the city, but I had no way of doing it because I don't know anybody here. And
you're talking Chicago.
Yeah, mm-hmm. Chicagoland. So I was like, well, I don't want to come back to Iowa. There's no way I want to go back to Iowa because how miserable I was. So my parents said, like, well, you can come stay with us for a while. So I came to Chicago, and I was just looking for ways to come back find a way to go back to active duty. And that was like at the peak of like the Afghanistan was going on.
How old are you at this point? Like 20?
I was in my 20s already. I was probably 23.
Okay.
So Afghanistan was going on. Iraq just kicked off in 03.
Mm-hmm.
So this was 04. Yeah, 04. And I was like, I'm still trying to figure out ways to get to active duty. Like, even it was so bad at the time that like even Delta Force was openly looking for people to go from any branch because they were so short on people. I was like, shit, that would be so badass. Like, I was always into that kind of stuff, you know, watching all these movies growing up. And I did a lot of reading. Like all my books are all in military history. And my big thing was reading about like the tier 1 units, but I'd start from like Vietnam and on. So I'd read about the long range reconnaissance and in Vietnam. I was obsessed about that. I read about all the Delta books. I read all the SEAL books, whatever was out at the time. And I was like, that's what I want to do. But like I said, the citizenship was holding me back. So there was no way I could make that happen. So just happened to be, I had to go to the immigration office to do some paperwork. And it just happened to cross my mind. I was like, why don't I just talk to the agent directly, to the INS agent? Because you usually deal with just some staffer, and then, you know, they just whatever,
Yeah,
just
they don't know what's up.
They don't know shit. I was like, and by then I was, you know, more comfortable talking to people, and I was like, you know, I'm just gonna talk to this INS agent and see if they got any answers.
You got this INS officer that you decide, or agent, or whatever their title is, and you just said, lay it on me. Like, what can you do?
Yeah, I was like, hey, I heard that George Bush signed this new thing into law to where if you're currently in the military, that you can get your citizenship right away. And I was like, is this true? And so this agent asked me, he's like, well, are you in the military? So I showed him my military ID. I was like, yep. He's like, yeah, you qualify. So here, just fill out this form and we'll start the process. And I was like, oh, this is crazy. I was like, why did I sit on this for so long? And I was just lucky that I thought of it at the moment. So I filled out the paperwork, and next thing you know, I'm like fast tracking through the citizenship process. It was a couple months between the time I talked to him to when I did my final interview downtown Chicago.
Wow.
And yeah, you take like the citizenship test, and I mean, I actually studied it. A lot of people don't, but I still studied it. I took it all seriously. And started dating my wife at the time as well, so she actually went with me.
Cool.
And I wore my Class A uniform, my military uniform. That's how I wanted to get sworn in, because I'm proud to serve this country. You know, I love this country, and that's how I wanted to represent. I wanted to be in my military uniform. So pretty much, the crazy thing is, we got our orders to go to Iraq at the time, and I was like, what are the odds? Like, I've been in this country for so long, and I get my citizenship right before I had to deploy to Iraq.
You wouldn't have been able to had you not, right? They would have left you here?
No, I could. Iraq doesn't require a passport. When you're in the war zone, like, shit,
But
man.
you guys were doing like police work on the Egyptian thing.
Exactly. So yeah, everybody had to bring their passports for that. So it's a peacetime mission. Mm-hmm. So yeah, for Iraq, yeah, we got our orders, and we were training in Fort McCoy at the time. So I had to go to Fort McCoy. I was training, drive all the way to Chicago, get sworn in, drive back to Fort McCoy to continue my training. So yeah, I get my citizenship, and actually, let me backtrack a little bit. So back to the sniper thing, how that came around.
Yeah, I was about to ask, how'd that come? When did that come into play?
So that came into play right as I was working the citizenship process. So my staff NCO in my unit, that was a good friend of mine. He just calls me out of the blue. I was working a security job here in Chicago.
Okay.
I was just a regular security guy, because that was the first job that I found in a newspaper, and the first job that hired me. And he calls me, he's like, hey man, I got this sniper school spot, and do you want it? I was like, yeah, I want it. But he's like, this is what you're gonna have to do for this. You have to jump through all these hoops and make it happen in 1 week. The unit's all the way in Iowa. I'm here. I was like, I don't care what it takes. I was like, I want to do this, because I talked to this one guy who went to sniper school, and he failed. He failed twice. I mean, he was a friend of mine at the time, and I always picked his brain about it. I was like, hey, I really want to do this. This is some cool shit. And pre-war, National Guard, or just, I think active duty in general, did not have that many snipers. Mm-hmm. So this was something they were ramping up, because they were making dedicated sniper units. So there more spots were opening up, but they came across this one spot last minute, and he's like, you're gonna have to go all the way to Des Moines, Iowa. So driving from Chicago to Des Moines, Iowa, and you have to go to all these different places to get all your shit done. You go through full medical, you have to do full psych, and so pretty much I had to go to Des Moines. It was like a 2-day process. I had to drive all over the place. Of course, it was like pre-iPhone, smartphone days. I'm like driving with my
Atlas out.
Yeah, it was what was it, MapQuest?
Yeah. Printing off the MapQuest.
Yeah, I had a stack of MapQuest, like all these places I had to go. I was like, I don't know how I survived back then, you know?
But you did.
But I did. So I was like, I made it happen, and everything got done. And I had to drive from here all the way to Little Rock, Arkansas. So when you were asking me about if I knew your friend from
Benning.
From Benning, I was like, there were 2 sniper schools. There's one, the main one at Fort Benning, and one in Little Rock, Arkansas.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, the National Guard sniper school is there. But all those instructors from the Benning are teaching there.
I see.
And they were running all the active duty as well through that school. So, like, most of my class was active duty guys from, like, 4th Infantry Division, 3rd, all the people from Carson. So it was kind of cool seeing some of these unit guys that I was like, oh yeah, I was on your base just last year. So I go to the sniper school, and I had to drive all the way to Little Rock, and it was like, man, that was a painful drive in one day. And I was like, I haven't ran forever, because part of the thing, you have to do a PT test and shit. And I was like, at the time, you know, I was just a dumb meathead, just pumping iron. Cardio was just like once in a while. It's just something I had to do for the PT test.
How big a run was it?
It's just a 2-mile run.
Okay.
But it's still timed. But I mean, I wasn't too worried. I never failed a run in my life, but like I said, I'm too competitive. I don't want to look like shit. So I show up and I started just running around the base just to get back into a little bit of running shape. And my buddy warned me in advance. He's like, hey, this school is a 2-part thing. There's like phase 1 and 2. So you do the first 2 weeks and you come back, and we have to get you a slot for the second phase. And I was like, whatever, I'll do it. So I get through the first phase, and he's like, you know what, you can stay. So I ended up being there for that month of sniper school. And it was probably the best time of my life. It was one of the best military schools I've ever been to. I mean, I think sniper school has one of the highest washout rates. I think that's what they were telling us at the time. But I mean, they were comparing it to like Ranger school, stuff like that. I never made it to Ranger school, but a lot of people washed out of the sniper school.
Are you a Mills guy or an MOA guy?
MOA.
Yeah.
Because that's what was taught me. And because everything is already set in the scope at the time, we were shooting the M24 sniper rifle, which is just a
bolt action 308.
Exactly, just a Remington 700, and with a fixed 10 power scope.
A Leopold on there?
A Leopold, yep. So that's what I learned on, and that's all I shot. And I mean, now you look at it as like it's like a outdated old school rifle, because now they're shooting the, what is it, the XM110, which is pretty much a AR-10. And then they got the bolt action version of the Remington. I forgot what it's pretty much fancy shit. But yeah, so
that's what you deployed to Iraq as your job.
So yeah, it's just crazy how my life, just everything happened so fast in the sense then, because I went through sniper school. I was a sergeant at the time, and I graduated. I come back to my unit, and and they tell me is like, you're the first guy to make it through sniper school in the history in this unit. I was like, in the state, because
nobody that they sent ever completed it.
Yeah.
What was the washout? Was it math? Was it being able to complete the shooting objectives? Like, where did guys screw up?
So the shooting will get some people, and the thing that you wouldn't even think about is stalking. Mm-hmm. The stalking phase washes out a lot of people, and
moving too fast.
That plus, yeah, just not thinking about some of the things that they teach you, like because you're on one end and they're on the other side with these giant binos, so you're trying to picture what they're seeing, so you have to figure out how to blend in with the environment. Like, I remember taking my final shot one time through this thick ass bush, but I had to get to it. It was an open field, so pretty much it was Fort Chaffee, Arkansas, and I think funny thing is I just saw it in the museum. Elvis was in that.
Oh, cool.
It was on that base. That's where he was at in the Army. But either way, it's like a tick land. There's like nothing but ticks.
Sure. Yeah.
But either way, it's just all you see is just a big grass field, and there's a bush right there. I was like, I gotta get to this bush somehow. So it was probably the most memorable stalk I ever did, because I remember everything is a timed event. So you had your ghillie suit that you built, and all right, they're like, the time starts now. You have to start vegging up your ghillie suit. So vegging up means whatever surrounding vegetation you have around you, that's the shit that you put in on the little rubber bands onto your suit, so that way that you blend in with the environment. Mm-hmm. I had to piss so bad when this started. I was like, I don't have any time. I was like, I need to finish this. So I was like doing all that, and then I take off. I had to piss the whole time I had to do that, and I was like, like I said,
unzip
I know. I was like, I would have just pissed my pants. I mean, but either way, I ended up crawling to this bush, and there was just this tiny gap that I found.
To shove your rifle barrel through?
Yeah, you don't even shove it through. You just offset it off the bush.
I just mean that you could get around through, yeah.
But it's just enough to where I could see the spotter, but they can't see me. Because you take your shot, and they're looking for your muzzle blast too. So you have to be aware of that as well. And I was like, perfect. I was like, I couldn't believe I made it to that bush and found that one little spot, because you had the shears that you carried with you to cut the vegetation around to get it just right. And it was like, yeah.
How far was the shot you had to take?
It was actually pretty close. I mean, it must have been like 150, 200 meters out. I mean, I had to get on top of it. I mean, they made it hard to where it was...
It was about the stalk, not the shot.
Yeah, exactly. Because they don't want you spotting them like a mile out, and they're like, oh yeah, I made this shot a mile away. Sure. They made you work for it to where you're pretty much on top of them, and you have to take that shot.
You had to get there. That's cool.
So yeah, coming back, I came back to my unit. We got our orders to go to Iraq. And then my sergeant major's like, hey, we have a ranger school spot. You want to go to ranger school? I was like, you know what? No, because I just started dating my wife at the time. I just went through sniper school. I didn't see her for a month. And now I go to ranger school, which is like 3 months. And then I'll have to go from ranger school straight to my mobilization site. I'll never see my family, because I was like, I want to at least have that break in between. I was like, this can wait. I was like, because ranger school is another thing I always wanted to do. And ranger school, like I said, is just a suck fest. It's one of the best leadership schools that you can attend.
You regret you didn't go?
No.
No.
And the only reason why is because of my wife. Because she was my girlfriend at the time, and now we're married, and I don't think it would have worked out. And plus my family. I was like, you know what? I don't want to miss all this time with the family and then deploy, not realizing that I'll be gone for 2 years straight. Because I just thought I'm going to be gone for a year, come back. And even then, that felt long, but it ended up being a lot longer than I anticipated. So either way.
2 years you were gone?
Yep. It was 22 months total. Because at the time, I would say it was I'd call it mismanagement on the Army's part, whoever the higher ups. We went to Hattiesburg, Mississippi. It was right after Hurricane Katrina in October of 2005, and that whole place was demolished.
Sure, I remember that.
And so we stayed in like these old school barracks, you know, just your typical barracks. It's like being back in boot camp. But we were supposed to have been there for just 2 or 3 months maximum, and then deploy to Iraq. So we go there, and they just kept on bumping up the time. So we ended up being in Hattiesburg for like 6 months.
Okay.
And it was hell, because National Guard treats you like a kid. You know, active duty, at least they treat you like an adult. You know, you do what you have to do. Once you get dismissed, you're off on your own, do whatever the hell you want. We're pretty much locked down on this base for 6 months.
Wow.
And you can imagine what kind of shit comes from that. People started losing their minds. I mean, I remember one kid got arrested because he tried to attack the commander.
Just couldn't take it no more.
No, he lost his shit.
Prison.
Yeah, it was like being at a prison. You couldn't leave the base.
Wow.
I was like, I felt like I'm back in boot camp, because they're like, you can't leave the base, and you can only leave when, like, you'd have a pass, day pass. Like,
What was the purpose of that?
Control.
Why though?
Like I said, every leader's got their own way of doing shit.
What were they thinking though? I mean, you guys were there to help.
They were thinking probably that people are gonna go out, booze, and get in trouble. But I mean, they booze on base and get in trouble, same shit.
Sure.
So, I mean, people have to be held accountable. That's all it is, accountability. So stop treating people like children. But it was just 6 months of just bullshit. And I mean, all of our tasks got done, and it was just a waste of time. And it just didn't set the mood for the deployment, you know. So we couldn't wait to just get in country and just get it over with, because it was just silly. So yeah, we go through all that, and we flew to Iraq, to Kuwait in March of 2006. So we get to Kuwait, and it's like I was like, holy shit, I've never been to a desert. You know, it's like a whole different world out here.
Yeah.
And in Kuwait, you still have to go through another 2-3 weeks of whatever other bullshit you got to do there. And then they send you to Iraq as like an advanced party. So like a lot of the NCOs, well, I forgot to mention, like when I came back from sniper school, they told me, how would you be interested in running the sniper section? It was like, we'll promote you to staff sergeant, and you'll start this whole new fresh sniper section off the ground.
Wow.
I was like, well, I mean, that's a challenge, because
This is material you just learned too, right?
yeah, I just learned it as a user. I didn't learn it as how do you start a whole sniper section as a young.
Here's your manual.
Yeah, here's a young sergeant. Here you go, start this new section from ground up. So pretty much when I showed up to Mississippi, they gave me a bunch of dudes from different units that were interested.
Bullet comes out this end.
Yeah,
There's the trigger. Yeah.
So pretty much I had to pretty much weed out some people and train up the people that stayed. So pretty much we had to start fresh. At least I had a good solid group of guys. Like, and my leadership style is not like your traditional military leadership style, because I want it to be more like one of the guys, instead of being like the guy who rules with an iron fist. Like, you know, I mean.
More like a rubber fist?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Yeah.
I know what's in your bedroom drawers.
Yeah.
I've been waiting 30 minutes to get a rubber fist joke into this conversation.
I was waiting for it to come.
Found it.
Yep.
So you want to you lead more. I'm assuming you don't mean like you want to be their friends per se, but you want to be like one of the guys and help these people arrive at conclusions on their own. And
exactly. And I mean, I'd be honest and upfront with them. If you're gonna be held accountable. Like, I'm here for you. I'll do anything to help you. But you're also, if you screw up, you're also going to be held accountable for it. So that's how I treated it. And I think it was easier for everyone that way. I was like, we're a small team, and we need to rely on each other. Because if we're going to be in a war zone, working in small teams, you know, We're not like your traditional infantry team, infantry squad. You know, this is different. So, and that's how I did it. I don't know if it's right, if it's wrong, but you know, everybody's got their own leadership style, and I was still figuring it out.
Anything noteworthy from the 22 months that's worth sharing?
Not necessarily. The funny thing is, because you're in the infantry unit, you're thinking, I'm going to Iraq, I'm going to be doing all kinds of infantry shit. It's going to be, you know, like you see on all these videos, whatever, and that's what they said. They're like, hey, just so you know, your first 6 months in Iraq are going to be convoy operations. So pretty much what we'd be doing is providing convoy security for all these transportation trucks, because we were located on a Marine air base called Al-Assad, and you could pull it up on YouTube. I mean, it's a pretty big air base. So that's where we were that's where we were at, and we would run convoys all over Anbar province, Iraq. And because all the stuff would come in, because it's a big air base, all the supplies, and we would run it to all these smaller bases all over Anbar province. So they're like, at the 6 month mark, you'll get change of mission and you'll actually do infantry shit. I was like, well, cool, that's fine. But of course, that's not how the Army works. We show up and we're stuck doing convoy operations the entire time we're there. So pretty much all you're doing is you're on the road every day dodging IEDs. So, I mean, if you want to test your mental strength, go and sit in a convoy every day dealing with that shit for a year straight.
Drew, what'd you call that? He must have walked away. He did that. I think he called it riding the duck. Riding the duck. Like in that, like the old carnival game where the duck goes back and forth. Yep. And you get shot at.
Exactly. So pretty much I was like, what the doing? We're a sniper unit. We're a scout platoon, because we were attached to a scout platoon. That's how we worked. And every company had their own mission. Like we had one company responsible going all the way to the Jordanian border, which was a 3-day mission, because it's a long ways away from where we were at. Mm-hmm. And we were responsible for all the shorter missions. Ours were all day missions. And I was like, what are we doing? We're an infantry unit. We're just stuck in the truck dodging IEDs. I was like, this is bullshit. So pretty much, and then just to come to find out that the last month we're already on the calendar crossing off days. They're like, oh yeah, I'm going home. Just to find out from a news article that we've been extended for 4 months.
Without you even knowing.
Yeah, our command never said shit. And the funny thing is, my battalion commander decided to go on a pretty much ride along on a mission in my truck on the day that we found out. So, and of course, one of my gunners with no filter, he's like, hey, so are we getting extended by it? And of course, he's, you know, just beating around the bush and never admitted to it. You know, like, how do you not be honest with your troops? Be like, hey, you know, I know this sucks, but, you know, how do you find out from a news article that you're getting extended?
Sure.
And, you know, all the families panicking and shit. Afterward, you lost 2 guys, and it's just, yeah. I mean, you really want to test people's morale and their mental strength. Yeah, that was it.
You lost a couple guys to IED?
Craziest thing, all the IEDs we have encountered, we didn't lose a single guy. These 2 guys got ambushed. I wasn't there, so I can't speak for what exactly happened. Mm-hmm. But from what I heard from the sergeants that were in the truck, is they saw these guys off to this out in the distance in their pickup trucks, and they looked like they were IED spotters. So that's what they're like, hey, let's go peel off this convoy and go see what they're up to. So those trucks took off and they followed them along. By the time they caught up to them, the guys got out of the truck.
Funneled them into an ambush.
One of the guys jumped out of the truck, was in a bush somewhere with an AK. I can't remember which one got killed first, but I think the gunner, the young kid, got killed first.
Damn.
And the staff sergeant, who was a truck commander, stepped out to engage, got shot through the side, and got killed too. And
sorry to hear that, man.
yeah, I mean, luckily, I wasn't like friends with them because, like I said, we're a big battalion. But I only knew the staff sergeant just because I couldn't believe that this guy was a Marine major and on active duty.
Excuse me.
He got out at some point of his life and was living his life, and then the war happened and decided to join National Guard because he still wanted to serve. And he came in as a staff sergeant, even though he already served, on a officer level in the Marine Corps.
That's cool.
And I was like, I couldn't believe it. He was a good guy. I mean, I've seen him, and everybody had nothing but good things to say about him. And I was like, man, that sucks.
That does suck.
Yeah. But
so you come home at some point. You're done with your time in the Army. When did you decide to become a police officer?
Funny thing is, I never wanted to be a cop. Just because, you grow up in a small town and the police always got nothing to do with you.
So you became the guy that people.
I'm not your traditional cop either, though. I'm not the one just messing with people for no reason.
Sure he's not. Smells like weed in here.
Yep, exactly.
You been drinking? What's going on with your tail light?
Yep, just petty stuff. That's all I do. No, so I come back from my deployment and I move in with my wife now.
Living in sin.
Yep. So I was like, and my wife's like, "You're going to college. I don't care where you."
Oh, she's putting down the frickin' ground rules, huh?
Well, she is of Ukrainian blood, so she was brought up to where education is important, and she was like, "Listen, you need to finish your college." I was like, "You need to go get your bachelor's degree." So it's pretty much. I came back in end of July. I was home for 2 weeks, and I was already enrolled into college to university.
Cool.
So I mean, the transition happened real fast. I came in, moved in, and went straight to university. I was like, I had the GI Bill because they redid the entire GI Bill at the time, and we were getting pretty big chunk of money to go to college. So the Illinois tuition assistance and GI Bill, I was able to not have to look for work.
What'd you finish your degree in?
Finance. I was like, I always liked money. I mean, everybody likes money, but I was always interested in how it works. I was like into like investments and stuff like that. I wanted to understand it because I grew up, like I said, below middle class.
Sure.
Like my family never had money. My parents still work. They're in their 60s, so they're still living paycheck to paycheck. I was like, I want to understand how money works. So I was like, I think finance will be great. And it was very interesting. And I was never able, in my life, I was never able to dedicate myself to education full time because I always had a job. Like when I was living in Iowa, it was a full-time job. It wasn't a part-time job. And I was a full-time college student. So I was just an average college student. Like I was just getting C's, whatever. I was barely getting by because it's hard to dedicate yourself to two different things at the same time. But this time I was like, you know what? I want to dedicate myself 100% to education because I've never been in an honor roll in high school or middle, and I was like, I want to get good grades. Like my goal was I want to graduate like a 4.0 from the university.
Did you do it?
It was like 3.85 or some shit like that. I know. You always have that one asshole professor. No matter what, you're never going to get an A.
Should have done a low crawl on him and fixed the problem.
I thought of so many ways of like
maybe you could have worked harder and got better grades.
Yeah, I think that's...
So you finish school, you've got all this time you spent chasing all these dreams in the military. Why become a cop if you didn't want to become a cop?
Well, in 2008, when the recession hit, and I was like, I'm going to start looking for work in my last year of college, and I should probably... Good thing I was more mature, and I was like, I need to look ahead. I can't just like, I'm going to graduate college, then start looking for work. I was like, I gave myself that buffer a year. I was like, I need to start looking for something. So I'm like on all those monster.com,
Sure.
whatever those recruiting websites, and I'm filling out all these applications for like bank teller positions, like, and nobody's hiring. Like I couldn't get a bank teller job.
It was crazy then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
But luckily, I've always been so frugal in my spending. Like people don't believe that all that money I made serving overseas, I still have it. Like I took that money and invested it, and they don't.
From 20 years ago.
Yeah. And I wasn't even a finance major then. I just like I was always saving money, but either way, couldn't find a job anywhere, and I was like, and then one of the guys that was in my class, he was a former Navy guy. Is you always gravitate towards the people that you can relate to. So I had a lot of veteran friends at school, and he's like, you should look at being a cop. He's like, I'm in the process with Chicago police. You should look around. So I started looking at these flyers for police jobs. I'm like, man, I didn't know cops actually get paid decent money.
They do around here, but
Yeah.
not other places.
No, yeah, exactly. Because I was used to Iowa, I was
Right.
like, you got this one cop that's, this.
$13 an hour.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, I don't want to do this. I was like, I'd be bored out of my mind. But then I was like, I started paying attention. I never paid attention to police around here, nothing like that, because it didn't interest me. So, and then like driving to school, you see this like plainclothes cop on a traffic stop. I was like, what the hell? I didn't know they had plainclothes police officers. Like, what does he do? And so I started looking more into it, and I started applying all over while I was still. And the crazy thing is, since you can't get a job anywhere, people start gravitating towards those type of jobs. But police at the time, all the police jobs were also top heavy. I mean, there were maybe hiring for one position.
Yeah.
So I remember going to these orientations, and you would have 500, 600, 700 people, gymnasium full. So you sit through this whole thing and like, oh, by the way, we're only looking for one spot. I was like, I have no chance of getting this job. Mm-hmm. So I was like, whatever.
Not with that attitude, pal.
Oh no, that crossed my mind, but I was like, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna let that stop me. So
yeah, everybody was trying to find like something secure to pay the bills, keep their kids fed in those days. I remember all kinds of people, real estate guys, insurance guys, mortgage dudes that jumped over and became cops and firemen and jobs like that just to be able to cover their nut.
Yeah, so I was going to school during the week, and on the weekends I'll go test the departments. I'd filled out applications throughout the week and, just applied everywhere, and I would go test. And I would just keep getting rejection letters. Like, sorry, you didn't make the cut. And funny thing, one department, I was pretty high up on the list. I didn't make the cut, which I tested with again, just to have them offer me a position after I was already hired with my agency. So
imagine if that was now.
yeah. It's sad seeing now versus then. Mm-hmm. I was like, but either way, I was almost like giving up on that process because I had a stack of rejection letters from all these agencies, and I think. And then I think they were disqualifying you because you were a military veteran, and they thought that you were crazy.
Really?
I think so. I think that had to do something to do with it because.
Do you have any facts to substantiate or?
No, it's just talking to people, and people have more insight into
Who are
those.
these people? Where do they get their facts from?
I don't know. It's just maybe just making shit up. Mm-hmm. But
sign here, we'll let you go.
Yeah, but whatever. I was almost giving up on that process, but like I said, it wasn't stopping me. Like every time I'd show up, and when they do the PT test for the agency,
you crush that.
I'd crush it. I would slap everybody on that run, or I would do the extra. I was like, and then all these people are like, why are you doing this? I was like, you don't think these people that are watching you are paying attention? Sure. I was like, when your ass gets up there for the interview, they're gonna remember you. Like, oh yeah, you're
that did the extra push-ups or
exactly.
His ass off.
You're the guy that lapped everybody. They're gonna remember that. So that was my attitude. I was like, I'm gonna give it 100% on every single test that I do.
Have you been at the same agency since you got hired?
Yes.
So like 15 years or something?
I'm on my 14th year now, so. But
How has policing changed in 14 years?
tremendously.
Yeah.
I mean, I work for a pretty busy city, pretty busy agency, and like I said, we went from our staffing levels just dropped tremendously since when I started. Like our staffing levels like at 165 officers, and then it dropped down to like all the way to 120 at one point, because a lot of my friends that I started with are gone. They went to other agencies because, yeah, it's just been it's been a wild ride. It's just been like a roller coaster.
What's changed from the perspective of interacting with the general public? I don't mean criminals per se, but just like, do you see any difference in the general public's treatment of you or viewpoint towards what you do?
Yes, and I think a lot of these trends follow the news. Like whatever you see on the news, pretty much you'll see on the street.
Yeah.
Whatever's popular at the time. You know, I guess we've been through a lot of tough times in the police world. A lot of unpopular things have happened. A lot of, police events have happened where we were not very popular, and they really affected us too. Yeah.
How long have you been on the interagency SWAT team? Here in this region, there's a big interagency SWAT team that the departments put guys on.
So I'm on my 12th year now.
Okay, so most of your time.
Yes.
What's your job? What do you do?
So I'm a shield guy on the entry team. So pretty much I'm the guy that's up front protecting the team. So yeah, I just carry the shield and a pistol.
Little bicep job.
Yeah, so my left arm is stronger than my right.
I'm holding the shield up.
Yeah.
Why did you decide to do that job?
Well, you asked me before, is like, why didn't you do the sniper ride?
I asked you when we were talking. I said, yeah, are you the sniper guy?
But I treat everything as like, I'm always a student with everything that I do. And I think that when I was in the military, I got to experience the sniper stuff on the military level. But then I look at it on the police level, and I was like, that's not very challenging to me. So I wanted to master something new that I haven't done. So I was like, well, I want to do the entry thing. Like I want to master CQB. So, and that's what I focused on. I was like, I want to be on the entry team, and I want to be as proficient as I can at CQB. So, and I've been doing that for the last 11 years.
What's your preferred sidearm?
Glock.
34, 17, 45?
Well, 45 is fairly new and it's supposed to be like the latest and greatest, which I'm thinking about adopting that. Just haven't switched to it yet. But I would say that over the years, my preferred would be Glock 34. That thing is dead accurate. I mean, I've put that thing through thousands of rounds of shooting, and yeah, I love that gun.
Why do you like Glocks? I just figured I'd ask a guy that does it all the time.
Well, like I tell anybody who's new to shooting, or anybody like asks me, is like, well, what's the best pistol to buy? Well, what's the best pistol that fits into your hand and you can accurately shoot with?
Sure.
So I started the job. I was issued a Glock 17, so I was used to the way the trigger operates. I'm not big on modifying shit. I was like, I'm just used to the stock way of, the way the Glock is. So I know every trigger is consistent with every gun that I have, because every gun is a Glock. So it's just what I started with and got used to shooting with, and I know it's a reliable gun. It's like, I call it, it's like the AK of the pistol world. You know that thing is going to shoot when you want it to shoot. So
I dig it.
And I just stuck with it. People just like having a collection of shit of different brands and whatever. That's cool. But I'd rather have, consistency when it comes to guns.
I agree. How important is physical fitness to you in, I guess, your life and your job?
Well, I've thought about this question for a long time.
Why?
Just because I think a lot of people don't understand a lot of things, why I do what I do. And I think it carried on from my deployment days. I think deployment is when I got into fitness on the next level, I would say, from your basic, just doing curls and bench press, whatever. And I think to me, fitness is dealing with stress.
Mm-hmm.
I think to me, fitness is my way of dealing with whatever I have going on.
How often do you work out? Every day after work?
I mean, if you watch my Instagram or whatever, you see me posting, like, anything that I post is what I do. So I work 12-hour shifts now, which makes it pretty much impossible to work out with a 12-hour shift. I mean, you can make it happen, but at what point does it become counterproductive to where you're exhausted and you're trying to push through this workout and
blow
it's just,
your back out or something? Yeah.
Exactly. After sitting in the squat car for 12 hours, it's exhausting. So I just, like, after work, I'll go for a run. Like, my thing is running, just because it's the fastest way to warm up your body, burn off some calories, just loosen everything up after work.
How far do you go?
I do 5K runs, just because I just picked a number.
You get home, throw your shoes on.
Yeah. As soon as I come home, change and just go for a run.
Do you have one of those belts with the 2 water bottles on it?
I actually got one last year.
Did you really?
But not for a 5K run. I mean, that'd be so stupid.
I know.
I was like, hey, I'm going for a 1 mile run, but I got my water bottles. But no, I hate running with that stuff. I don't like holding shit in my hands. I don't like anything in my waist.
Kidding with
no,
you.
I know. But
the guys at work, do they all have nicknames for you, like Vladimir CrossFit or anything like that?
Yeah, they get all kinds of names, but they don't call me it to my face. Because
No? Well, I don't mean in a negative way.
No, I know. I get a lot of shit. I give a lot of shit, but I also get a lot of shit back.
You put yourself all over the internet, and basically you're wearing ladies' underwear, doing deep squats with heavy kettlebells.
Have you tried doing deep squats with long-ass shorts? And this shit catches and it's just...
I wear the shortest shorts as often as I can.
Yeah, so... Yeah, I don't do it for the gram. I only do it for comfort.
But you do it for the gram. You put the shit on Instagram every day.
So let's just go backtrack a little bit. Why I'm even on Instagram? Like, I'm not the type to likes attention. Like, I know it's hard to
film yourself with almost no clothes on.
Yes.
With I think you got baby oil all over you in your garage. You got lighting. You got Derek doing the light with flashlights on you. I see how you set your lighting up so that the shadow, the pec line top. I see what you're doing.
I mean, if you went to my garage, you'd be like, "There's no way."
He's done the lighting with the oil so that you.
I got just a regular light and nothing else.
Well, you've also figured out where to stand for the lighting.
I think it's just the way it works out. It's just. But no, the funny thing is, like 3 years ago, I didn't even know what the hell Instagram was.
Sure.
I mean, I hated social media.
Agreed.
Because
it's the
I cannot.
Suck, waste of life.
It definitely is. Like, it's just brings out the worst in people.
And sometimes the best.
No, it does. But like, I was used to the Facebook world, for example. Like, I remember going through all the way from like MySpace to beginning stages of Facebook. And I was like, well, so of course, eventually people start expressing some stuff that you don't like, or you say something that somebody else doesn't like, it turns into a big mess. And I was like, I hate social media. The only reason I got on Instagram, my sister moved out to California, and that's the only way I can just see anything that she does.
Communicate with her,
Yeah, so I was like, well, I just got on Instagram just so I could
keep in touch.
Keep in touch with my sister. And then she sends me this one kettlebell guy on there, Eric Leha. He's the Primus Soldier on there. You've probably seen he does a lot of kettlebell flows. He's like, hey, can you do this? Because at the time I started training in kettlebells, Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu and stuff. I was like, well, I'll give it a try. So I gave it a try. So I started looking at some other stuff he had, and whatever. I just kept Instagram I just watched whatever that guy was doing and just stay in touch with my sisters. And my stuff was all private. And so now I was talking to one of my teammates. He's like, maybe you should post some of your workouts on Instagram. I was like, I don't know. I don't want to be in public eye. Like all these strangers are gonna like comment. I don't want to deal with any of that. He's like, yeah, but there will be a lot of benefits. Like I can see what you're doing. Like anybody else can see like how you stay in shape and do what you do, because I think whatever you're doing is working. So I was like, nah, whatever. I guess I'll give it a try. But trust me, it was a very hard decision for me to do that, because like I said, I'm a private person. I know it might seem like I'm doing shit out there for the gram, but I'm not. Anything that I post, I'm just showing the workout that I did that day, and that's it. Nothing more.
Okay.
Like if Instagram would turn off today, I'll be doing the same thing that's on there right now.
You got like about 50 or 60,000 people that follow you on there watching your stuff.
Yeah, something like that. But I'm not on your level, but
you've got a thing on the wall, I'm sure, that you've written down exactly.
I don't. Like, I tell it to my friends. I was like, if it all goes away tomorrow, like, I wouldn't lose sleep over it.
Well, yeah, I mean, that should be the case. It's just, yeah. But so you seem to do a lot of, my friend Pat McNamara, he calls it functional fitness. Seems to be more functional movements versus like classic lifting, like you said, a bench press or a bicep curl or something like that, which is exercise and it's good for you.
Yeah. And I got nothing against bodybuilding. I did it for so many years, like going straight from senior year to high school all the way to post-deployment when I was going to college. I mean, I was 190 pounds. I was like over 20 pounds heavier.
Wow.
And yeah, I was putting up good weight, and that's all I knew. And I didn't know anything outside of that.
Just pounding chicken breasts all day long and eggs.
No, I was eating everything. I wasn't like eating chicken and rice. That's boring, you know. I was like, Russians don't do that kind of food, you know.
No?
Nah.
What kind of food do Russians do?
Everything. I mean, a lot of meats, a lot of different carbs, you know. It's a variety. You know, Russians, their diet is borrowed from other countries because, you know, like the former Soviet states, like I told you, my dad's was born in Uzbekistan, which is Middle East pretty much. You're in the mountains, and their food is like lamb, rice, and stuff like that. So, like, I grew up eating variety of different foods from different cultures. So,
I like it.
Yeah.
Go ahead. You're going to say something.
Oh, no, I was just like trying to get back to we were talking about getting into functional training from traditional bodybuilding. And the funny thing, interesting thing that you mentioned was Pat McNamara. So when Pat first got onto Facebook, like I said, before Instagram days, I saw him just doing his range workout for the first time ever. I was like, who the is this guy? I was like, Pat McNamara, listening to heavy metal music, running around the range and doing crazy shit. And I was like, this dude's badass. So I followed him on Facebook ever since the beginning. I was like, man, this is the type of shit we should be doing, because it's applicable to the job that we do, because you don't know, you know, you could be sitting in the car for 11 hours, and on the 11th hour, you gotta go from a dead sprint somewhere and save lives. So I was like, this is the stuff like I should be doing. And I've been following Pat for a long time. And at the same time, I was working the midnight shift for the first 5 years of my job. And I was like, there's no way I always wanted to do MMA training, some form of MMA training, ever since a kid, growing up watching Bruce Lee and all those, you know, kickboxer, all that shit. And I was like, I really want to do mixed martial arts. In Iowa, it was not a thing, because there's not a single
militage fighting camp.
Yeah, but like I said, no internet.
Oh.
Pre-internet days.
Okay.
Like I said, growing up before internet, before anything, you're like, where do you get any information? Like, I had zero resources for anything, even like lifting weights. So like, what do I do? I was like, just, you know, you just, whatever the guy tells you at the gym to do, that's what you just watch somebody else do it and you do it. But, so I always wanted to do MMA. So going forward to me being a cop on midnights, I was like, I can't work midnight shift and then go join the MMA gym and do that at the same time because, you know, like I told you, everything in life for me happened fast. I went to college and I got hired right away. Like, funny thing is, I'm on a honeymoon with my wife. We're in the middle of South Pacific in Tahiti.
Oh, cool.
And I just happened to bring my laptop because I was still finishing college. I convinced the professor, I was like, hey, I got married and I want to graduate now. I was like, can I just do my shit online? I'll send you all my homework, whatever. So I brought my laptop then. So I'm sitting in this little cafe in Tahiti. I plug in my laptop and I get the email from my department. And like, hey, we've been trying to call you. We can't reach you. Like, and we got the job offer for you. I was like, oh wow. Shit. I was like, I emailed like, I'm sorry. I'm I'm on my honeymoon right now. I'm coming back in a couple weeks. So everything happened really fast with me. So I got hired right away and like no breaks ever since. And the thing is, when I graduated from police academy, I was already my first month at FTO. I'm at a funeral for a retired police officer and I get a phone call from my wife. Like, I'm freaking out. I think I'm pregnant. I was like, oh, I was like, I haven't even finished the field training process and you're already pregnant. I was like, there's no break here at all. So I was like, so my first daughter was born, and of course, you know, living in this urban environment, daycares are expensive.
Sure.
So we had to put her in the daycare because both of us work every day, and there's no way we could make it work. And I was like, I'm working nonstop. I'm working all the overtime I can work. I'm never home. Like, so training was a hard thing. And I was like, and I cannot add MMA training to this mix right now, because I'm just trying to help my wife with the newborn, and I'm on working midnight shift. I'm constantly exhausted, and like I said, my workouts were like focused. As soon as I put my daughter to bed, I run straight to the gym, close the gym, and go straight to work. And it was just nonstop like that. And then my second daughter was born, and I was still on midnight shift, and I was like, man, I don't know if I'm ever gonna join any gym. But my friends always telling me, like, one of my best friends was still on the team, but he works for other department now, but we worked together at the same department at the time. He was training with my current coach, George. He's like, hey, you got to go check out my gym. George is awesome, like, you know, and it's a Krav gym. They was doing a lot of like weapons defenses, stuff like that. I know a lot of people are going to talk shit about Krav.
I will when we're done on this podcast.
You can talk shit about a lot of martial arts, but it all depends who's teaching it and what you're learning. So they're like, you got to try this place. It's awesome. So as soon as I got off midnight shift, I went and did one day at this gym. And I was like, holy shit, I was exhausted. I was like, I did like a kettlebell workout, did some striking, and then I realized that I suck at punching and I suck at kettlebells. And I just got hooked. And I was so hooked on it, I was doing 2 to 3 classes a day. And I was exhausted. But sure. I couldn't stop myself because this is what I always wanted to do for so many years. But I was already, 35, 36 at the time. And I'm pretty old starting mixed martial arts. So, yeah, and I haven't slowed down ever since.
Cool. And that gym, that's the gym you're still going to?
Yeah, originally it was a different gym. They were just renting space from like a Taekwondo place. And eventually my coach separated from that and opened up his own gym. And that's the Alpha Krav Maga in Northbrook. So, and I've been training with him since day one.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Krav.
But, I mean, if you want to talk about Krav, we can talk about it too. But that's fine.
No, I think there's most definitely some... I think the problem is not to derail the topic from your life, but there's definitely, like, I got an email one time from a Krav, like a national federation of, you know, blah, blah, blah. And in 1 week, for $599, I would be a master Krav Maga instructor. I called them because I like just had a fun phone call, like, tell me more, tell me more, tell me more. And it's like, you scumbags, you know. And then what is that? Then some guy is definitely going to go spend $600,
Oh, yeah.
and then that guy goes and starts teaching, and that guy's teaching garbage, and some people come and they're learning garbage, and then eventually those people become black belts or whatever, and then they're teaching, and it's just they're teaching trash.
No,
Right?
I completely understand. There's a lot of fluff out there.
I got a great story about, so at S12, our big event, we take mats, and Z's a black belt. My coach Dan Hart comes to that event sometimes. He's a black belt. Henry Akins, my coach's coach, who's a Hickson Gracie black belt, he comes. A bunch of different people do jiu-jitsu, and a bunch of them are strikers. Paul Sharp, of course, one of the original OGs from SBG. So guys that like know what they're doing. And there's a dude there. He's a good guy. He might be watching this, and he's crap. My nephew, who's upstairs in the office, who you'll meet, had been training jiu-jitsu. He did some Kempo in his youth for like a couple years, competed a little bit when he was like grade school, and then had been doing jiu-jitsu for maybe 6 months at the time of this thing. So this guy's just going on and on and on and on and on about how he's, you know, all encompassing. You know, I could pick up a frickin' coat hanger and kill your whole family. So my nephew, if memory serves, I filmed it. We're like, let him mount you. Kanan's 150 pounds. This guy was probably 220, 230. And he just kept destroying him. And the dude got so mad that he lost his shit and went back to his bunk. Like, I mean, like threw a temper tantrum. And it was like, you know, it was like, grab my wrist. I'm not going to do nothing. No, not like that. Like, grab my wrist, like do it, like grab it different. You know, like, no, not like that. You know, like you had to like he wanted you to like.
Yeah, because in the fight it's going to be just like that. Like,
so just kept like dumping him and choking him and taking his back and shit. And it was just like, all right, I got it. So the place you're going, you're doing this broken rhythm training that's like contingent upon getting a certain feedback, you know. And like Aikido, not to go down that rabbit hole, but like I had friends that are like master Aikido practitioners. That stuff is contingent upon like a certain feedback, and it just doesn't work that way.
No, I completely agree. And like I said, it all depends on what kind of program it is, who's running it, and
we should go on the mat in a minute. It'll
all
be
right.
fun.
I'm not doing any Krav Maga, but I haven't even practiced Krav Maga. I mean,
there's already making the excuse. I'm just kidding. No, we'll have some fun though. I want to see your big kettlebell. You brought a 36 kilograms. So what is that? Like 70 pounds?
Yeah. So we multiply it
2.2.
Yep.
So it's like 78 pounds or some shit. And you take two hands and barely figure it out?
Yeah, I mean, I got a fake one at home, you know, it's like foam.
That's heavy.
Yeah. But
you're doing shit with one with like almost 80 pounds over your head.
Yeah, and I get a lot of comments. People say it's bad for you, but I don't give a shit.
Then do you respond, like ask your wife what she thinks of my body?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I was like, your mom approves.
Your mom likes it.
Yeah, so I'll just do it for your mom, not for you. But
do you find that, like in law enforcement, there's a pushback from coppers, maybe to not chase physicality or having excellence in fitness? I think you're going to toe that thin blue line, and
I'm not going to toe.
Oh, my brothers and sisters are awesome.
No, I'm not. I'm opposite of all that.
Are you?
You know, I'm not wearing no sheepdog merch or anything like that. Nah.
You are pretty tacked out though. You've got on your 511s. You've got the frickin' proverbial Solomons on.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna wear my skinny jeans.
Oh shit, mine are feeling kind of skinny right now. I think I dried them in too high a heat.
Yeah. The issue is if you do this job long enough, all your clothes
just look the part.
Exactly, because anytime I could get a call, I was like, oh, I don't really have to change much.
It's like seeing that girl that's a stripper at like a 3-year-old's birthday party and she's got stripper clothes on.
Yeah, something like that.
Pretty much just like.
But I'm not gonna go to the grocery store like this.
Why?
because I don't want to stick out.
What would you wear at the grocery store that was different?
I'd probably wear jeans.
Okay. That'll
Different jacket.
Blend right in. That's your, what'd you call it? Foliaging? What was the word you used?
Yeah, foliage.
But what was the word that you said when you like...
Vegging up.
Vegging up. So when you veg up, you go home and get the 511s off and pull on some Levi's 501s.
I would have to say these are the most comfortable pants I've ever owned.
Those are nice pants. I don't have that exact pair, but I've
They don't even sell them anymore. They're so good.
Why did they stop selling them?
I don't know. I was talking to my 511 guy. He's like, yeah, we don't even carry those.
There's a bunch of good companies now. Like Victos is my preferred brand. Like the gusset that's in your crotch. Like just the way that they make all that so it opens up and the stretchy materials and stuff. Yeah. We're in an amazing time.
Yeah, I'm all for it.
So you were saying, though, I was asking you about the coppers in general, physical fitness.
Yeah, I mean, since I started the job to now, a lot has changed even in that mindset because, like, my department, for example, it's a lot younger. And you get a lot more younger, more motivated officers. Like, back when I started, you know, you go to day shift, roll call, for example, is just a bunch of old, you know, senior citizens in there, you know, out of shape, nobody gives a shit, whatever. And now, I mean, I talk a lot of shit to my friends at work. I was like, you know, you seeing somebody grabbing a donut, I was like, what the are you doing, you know? Like, way to live up to the stereotype, you know, type of stuff. But it's all fun. But either way, I was like, I try to encourage them. I was like, you know this program, they have the Adopt a Cop, BJJ, and go try that out. Like one of my partners, former partners, we're on different shifts now, but he started the whole Adopt a Cop, was one of the first officers to go to one of the schools. And there's a Niles police officer who runs a school. What the hell is that called?
Is he retired?
No, he's still actively a Niles police officer. Pena's ex-husband. I'll tell you, I'll have to look him up. But either way, he has a program at his gym in Chicago. And several of our officers started going there. And it's gaining more traction. Good. So, and of course, I'm sure a lot of my coworkers watch my stuff on Instagram, whatever. And, you know, sometimes they'll be like, hey man, I've been watching your stuff, you know, like I'm really liking it. I was like, I don't even know who watches my stuff, but it's just funny.
I do.
Oh, but it's funny when you hear it from your coworkers because cops are not very good at like, oh, you know, like I like what you're doing, whatever, you know, like asking for advice. But I still have coworkers who ask me for advice for, you know, nutrition or workouts and stuff. And then,
so by and large, do you think that there's a problem? Let me rephrase the question. Do you think there's a systemic problem in the law enforcement community of people being fat?
Yes.
Okay.
I do. And
why do you think that management, like for example, our former sheriff here, I helped him with his campaign when they took over Big County, they tried to implement some physical fitness standards similar to like hiring standards, like, I don't know, annual physical kind of shit. And the union fought it and was like, can't do that. And I get why the union would do that. They want to give people the easiest time on the job possible. But like the pushback from it turned into like, okay, we'll get you a freaking $50 Walmart card once a year if you go to the gym kind of a thing, you know, like I'm making that up, but you know, some bullshit where it's like you're not asking them to like I don't know, like learn a foreign language. You're asking them not to die of diabetes or heart disease and be capable at their job. Like, why such a pushback?
I don't know. I mean, I just don't know how, like, you go from, you know, you go through the academy, you know what's expected of you. You're expected to be in shape. You have standards to meet. And then when you come out of the academy, you start your job, and all that gets kind of forgotten. And then it turns into this, for example. And I don't understand it either. And it's for people who care about, you know, their appearance and how they represent law enforcement in general. It's annoying. And I mean, the only way I think to fix it is, like I
Double
said,
leg guys in parking lots and show them their weakness.
yeah, there you go. Yeah, just drop them on the spot. But no, I think some will have an experience on the street. They'll experience that resistance what they're not prepared for, and they'll open up their eyes. It's like, maybe I should change something about my life. And there's just some people you can't fix, you know.
So I always think it's more of a hiring issue, like how we, like, I know for years in public sector jobs, like people concerned about your credit rating and things of that nature, which is valuable. You get a snapshot of a part of a person's character from that. But my great grandfather was a Chicago policeman years ago. He was a hard man, and I can't speak for everybody, but like Jim Cirillo. You remember like who these guys are? Jim Cirillo was part of the New York Stakeout Squad, where these guys like were basically like, they'd hide and wait behind, like they'd make hide sites in like pharmacies that got robbed, and they knew the crooks were coming, and they just would ambush them like freaking thugs. Like they were, and I'm not suggesting that was correct, but this was like at a time in New York City where like it was some crazy violence. Or Los Angeles had the SIS, the Special Investigation guys that were like freaking kind of like an SF unit of cops, and like that's like they would hire people based on like physicality, and there were boxing clubs and wrestling clubs, and then cops had shooting teams and stuff. Like now it's like, you qualify once a year, you don't even know how to shoot. I get guys in class, like I'm teaching guys how to zero their freaking optics and stuff, and it's like you carry that thing all day for work, and it not only is it not zeroed, but you don't know how to zero it. Exactly. And that's nobody's fault but their own.
Yes, and like I said, cops are people. They're just regular people. And like,
yeah, except if I was a baker, I'd know how to bake some shit. Yeah. If I was an accountant, I would know how to count some shit. If I was a movie maker, I'd know how to film some shit.
But there's a lot of shitty accountants out there.
I don't know, man. Like, I get that. I understand what you're saying. I'm not like digging on cops. I love police officers. By and large, I think you guys do a horrible job that nobody else wants to do, dealing with freaking drunk people, sick people, crazy people, irate people, and that's not lost on me. But it just seems like there's like this, like, I think we've spread it too thin. Like, you got to be mental health expert, you got to be like a freaking traffic control person, you got to do all these myriad of different jobs. Like, maybe we should just hire people and make you like tough guys that can communicate and like just go catch bad guys and not do anything else.
Yeah, that would be the ideal world, but the issue that we're running into nationwide right now is nobody wants to do the job. And because in the last several years, it hasn't been a very popular job to do. Like I said, right now you have 5 people show up to your recruiting event.
What do you think the role of law enforcement in general, like culture-wise, though, has done to create that decline in the public's perception? Like, I mean, I've known some shitty police officers in my life that were like, that not were, but are criminals, like by every sense of the law. Mm-hmm. They just don't get caught, right? And so, and I'm not talking about like, you know, anybody in particular.
Yeah.
But isn't there something that law enforcement has done that has like helped create this maybe ill will?
Well, a lot of the big things that hit the news didn't make it easy, but like social media is definitely not helping, but it's putting a lot of the shitty cops in the spotlight too, and that's what's not helping. Mm-hmm. Because I'm sure you follow like police posts on Instagram.
Sure.
It's the only police page I follow, just because it's actually like lessons learned type of stuff.
It's not just propaganda bullshit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and some of the stuff you see is not very popular, and I tell it to my friends all the time. Sometimes, you know, cops are like, we are our own worst enemy. Just some of the shit we do. Mm-hmm. And we just have to work on changing that perception. And, you know, it's simple shit as like, don't act like a robot, you know. You got a little kid come up, waving your, wave back, talk to people, don't act like you're any different from your regular civilians. I'm pretty sure a lot of people have had shitty interactions with cops growing up. I mean, I've had my fair share growing up, there weren't so positive interactions with police officers, and that's why I didn't want to be a cop. I was like, that guy was such an asshole,
I want to remind you and every other police officer listening, I pay your salary.
Oh, thank you, sir. and I pay the salary of the cops that work in my town. So
some,
yeah.
Although, but you're like putting money in the piggy bank and taking it right back out. See that you went to school for finance.
Yeah.
I did not, but I think my analogy's better. Every cop always comes back with that one. I pay taxes too.
Yeah. What was that? There's like a short clip in what was that series? Was it Southland?
I don't know. I don't watch a lot of TV.
I don't either, but I just saw just that one clip where they're getting ice cream at the store, and some lady just came up.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I pay your salary.
Yeah.
His response was the best. I wish I could
I remember
paraphrase
what you're talking
it.
about. Somebody put that clip all over social media.
Yeah.
I pay your salary.
You know what, ma'am? Yes, you do. Which means that you have actually paid for this. You want a lick?
That was the funniest response.
I'm just making examples that people talk about. I think it's good to talk about, like, people say F the police or defund the police. Okay, and then what? Or a lot of cops are like, the general public doesn't know what we go through. Okay, talk about that. Like, don't just like say little phrases but not do something. Like, I think goodwill towards children is great, but I don't know how many times I've been involved in usually all traffic related stuff, but you could tell this person is irritated from their life and they're taking it out on me. And it's like, if I have a bad day at work and I come home and take it out on my family, they don't deserve that. So like, you have to go to each interaction and treat that person respectfully and stuff. But like you don't know what I just had to deal with the last hour. You don't know what I had to deal with, man. Like, be a freaking adult.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I agree. What I tell the new officer, I'm a training officer too, so I train the new recruits. I was like, just treat the people how you would want a cop treating your mother, for example, on a call. That's just the one way to put it.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a good way to look at it.
And don't make it personal. This job is not personal. Like, you're dealing with people at their worst.
Like that recent Memphis video footage where dude made it personal.
Yeah, exactly.
He made it personal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I said, watching some of these videos is just cringe.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, what could I can't even picture what. I was speechless just watching it. Like, what the hell did I just watch?
Let the emotions take over and.
But like I said, like, not a single officer didn't cross their minds like, what the hell is going on right now?
What would you have done? Maybe not in that particular setting, but like some setting where clearly it was unlawful use of force on a civilian. What would you do as a cop on scene with 4 or 5 of your buddies?
You intervene. You still have the duty to intervene. So
you wouldn't just be like, let me get mine in on this.
No.
Cover your camera up.
No, you intervene and tell stop. You have to be the voice of reason.
Okay.
When all wheels come off, you have to be the reasonable guy. You have to be the voice of reason. Tell him to step away and intervene. He's already in custody. So that's what.
That guy in that video in Memphis technically was still uncuffed, kind of being a little bit combative.
But towards the end, though.
Yeah, they put the boots to him a little bit there.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was nuts, completely nuts. We covered a lot of stuff. I like to ask people quite simply, like, so you've lived 41 years and some change. What's something you'd pass on to the world that you'd leave them with, something valuable to you that you've figured out in your life thus far? Tuna's a nice snack.
Yeah. I'd say always, I don't want to sound like...
Say whatever comes to your heart, to your cold Russian heart.
I'd say always give it your best because you don't know who might be watching. Represent yourself. Dress like there's a saying like dress for the job that you want to do.
Okay.
Like I want to represent my profession to the best that I can.
Hence the 511 pants.
No,
during
that's
the podcast.
minus all this. Minus
I'm
all
just
this.
joking.
Yeah,
I'm
I know.
just joking.
Minus all this, but you got like in the military, I wanted to represent myself the best that I can. Like I always live to the military standards or try to exceed them in every way. In the law enforcement too, I don't want to say, oh, I'm a SWAT, I do SWAT work, and then you're just a fat, disgusting looking person. Like nobody's gonna take you seriously. But represent yourself. Give everything 100%, everything that you do, because if you ever want to be successful, because I came from nothing. Like I said, I don't want to give like a sad story to everybody. Like I came from poor, not so loving family to where I'm at now. But I had a great life, but I always had the mentality of just giving your best at everything that to be successful. And don't be comfortable where you're at. Always thinking about the next step, how you can make it better. So I'm like right now, I always tell somebody, always have like a 10-year plan. Like I have right now, I have a 10-year plan, like what I want to be in 10 years. For example, when I leave this job, what am I going to do in 10 years? Mm-hmm. So always have a plan in place and just don't be comfortable.
I dig that. Yeah, it seems like it's pretty easy to make excuses why we're not exuding excellence.
And I just want to be clear, I'm not perfect either. You always you make sacrifices at everything. Mm-hmm. Like I'm sacrificing family time when I'm doing my working out stuff. My wife is not always a fan of that when we go on vacation and I take off for a long run and she's like, what the hell, you're supposed to be relaxing. Like everything comes at a cost. You have to compromise at things. You just have to learn that perfect balance. I haven't found the perfect balance yet, but I try to make it work.
Keep looking. We're going to have you back on because we didn't talk about the Russian assassin. But I don't... We're going to have to come back to it.
Well, yeah, perfect. I mean, this way you're all going to have to come back and we can discuss.
We got to do two things, though. We're gonna go in the other room and we're going to grab your big kettlebell and you can show us a couple things. I'm going to have you sign that. Today's date is the 1st of March.
Visit our website, carrytrainer.com, for information about classes held throughout the U.S., Carry Trainer apparel, and upcoming projects. You can also email us at training@carrytrainer.com for information about setting up your own private course or speaking engagement. Training@carrytrainer.com or carrytrainer.com.